Hello everybody, it's GauntletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today I'll be playing some Historic Brawl with my Sai Master Thopterist deck, and we're going to be featuring a lot of the new cards from Historic Horizons, as you can see with the Universal Automaton and Sanctuary Raptor here. So Sai Master Thopterist is another artifact deck. You know I love me my artifact decks, but this one is quite an aggressive kind of combo-y deck. The point of this deck is to cast a lot of artifacts very quickly to spit a bunch of Thopter tokens on the board, and then just keep attacking your opponent with those Thopter tokens. We have some cards like Distant Melody here that will benefit from having a bunch of Thopters on board by letting us draw a bunch of cards. Same with Reconnaissance Mission. It'll do a very similar thing, drawing a card whenever we're dealing combat damage to a player. And then we also just have a lot of ways to buff those Thopter tokens or our artifact creatures in general. We have Forsaken Monument here, giving colorless creatures +2/+2, which is going to make those Thopters 3/3s. And this also just really works well with the deck in general, having a bunch of colorless spells, so whenever we're tapping something for colorless, we get 2 colorless instead, and whenever we cast a colorless spell, we're gaining 2 life. This card is just probably one of the best cards in the whole deck, because it just really lets the deck operate really well, really efficiently. We of course also have cards like the Chief of the Foundry here, giving all artifact creatures +1/+1, and we have some cards that are just self-contained beat sticks all on their own. We have the Nettle Cyst here, 3 mana for a living weapon, meaning that it'll spawn a 0/0 and equip this to it. So you 3 mana to create a creature that is power and toughness equal to the number of artifacts and enchantments we control, usually a really big creature. Plus, when that creature dies, we get to just move this equipment around unless our opponent destroys the equipment itself. And we also just have big creatures like Metalwork Colossus here that gets basically affinity for non-creature artifacts, costs less for each one of those that we have. So a lot of going wide with a bunch of early game Thopter tokens, but we also have a few cards that end up with just really big creatures all by their lonesome in the late game. So a really aggressive artifact-based deck here. A lot of fun stuff. I've been having a ton of fun with this deck already. If you have any suggestions for cards that aren't in the deck that might make the cut in the future, make sure to leave them in the comments below. I am always iterating on the deck, and it is certainly not perfect as it is, but I like where it's at right now. I could definitely see even lowering the curve even more and becoming even more aggressive. One thing that I did when I started out was I had a lot of the more basic, like generic combo package stuff in here where I had more mana rocks and Paradox Engine to do that kind of thing, but that thing's really played out. Plus, this deck is so fast, I think that it's just better to be spawning out a bunch of artifacts and trying to kill your opponent with those really early, so keeping the curve as low as possible so you can just drop a bunch of these, you know, kind of average little 1-mana artifact creatures in one turn. Is generally just better, because it's just making this board really wide before you dump something like a Forsaken Monument out, making your whole field or your board much bigger. It's just a really powerful thing to do, so really fun deck here, and I'm excited to get some games with it and show it off. I will have the deck list in the description below if you want to check that out as always, but yeah, this is going to be some gameplay of Sai Master Thopterist. And our first matchup will be against Volos Guide to Monsters, a really fun Simic value package, and it looks like they're going for the double commander value package there. This is a fantastic hand. Any hand with a Nettle Cyst in it is going to be absolutely bonkers. This card's just going to be a massive, ridiculous threat, so we're just going to keep it. Our opponent has Volo plus Karuga, so the double commander value package. Volo allows them to basically duplicate any spell that they cast. Any creature spell that they cast, I should say. And Karuga draws them a bunch of cards. So the general way I like to play this deck is to wait to cast any artifacts until we have Sai on the board. This deck is pretty weak to removal. It's relatively reliant on the commander. And if your commander gets killed, having to wait till turn 5 to cast it again and then start dumping the rest of your hand is a really big bummer. Probably one of the biggest weaknesses of the whole deck is the fact that you don't want to play anything until you have your commander on the board. So It is very, very weak to like single targeted removal. Ooh, what a great draw. Steel Overseer here to make all of our artifact creatures just bigger over time. So what do we want to do here? I kind of want to just play Nettle Cyst first. Just play Nettle Cyst and Mindstone here. And then next turn, that means I'll have the mana to play Immortal Sun or just a bunch of artifacts and go really wide there. But I'm thinking we get this Nettle Cyst out right now. That way next turn when we make our board even wider with even more artifacts, it will be attacking next turn since it doesn't have haste. As you can see, it's a 4/4 already. It's going to be even more ridiculous next turn, just be absolutely massive. The Whir of Invention is great here. It's a tutor effect. The best artifact in the whole deck tends to be the Forsaken Monument, so we'll probably be tutoring for that eventually. But for now, we have plenty more artifacts to cast here to get our board in a pretty ridiculous state. And our opponent, though, with that Volo deck, is going to have some ridiculous plays as well. Double Crystalline Giant. One of them gets flying, one of them gets hexproof. They get a random ability every turn, basically. And the double Jewel Die Cobra Death Touchers that create treasures when they die. So we're probably going to Death Touch kill our Germ. But we can also move the Nettle Cyst to a flyer here and just get in aggressively that way. So here I think I just want to play as many artifacts as possible. So we go for the Automaton, the Bone Splitter, the Overseer, the Sphere. Just absolutely everything. Just go off here. Attack with these. Attack with our Germ. Clear out one of their Death Touchers. And then we're just going to move the equipment onto one of our flyers and attack for potentially like lethal next turn with the amount of flyers we have on the board plus a +12/+12 equipment. I suppose it won't be as big next turn because we did just lose one artifact there, but with Steel Overseer making all of our flyers 2/2s, we have a ridiculous attack next turn. If we don't get board wiped here, our board state is looking quite close to lethal. I suppose they could play a flyer here. Any flyer they cast is going to be 2 flyers in 1 card because of Volo. So just 1 flyer cast this turn. We'll give them 2 flying blockers and protect them from a good bit of damage here. Give them another turn, maybe. They do have Creeping Mold to kill the Steel Overseer, so that definitely gets us a lot farther from lethal, because that would have been an additional 10 damage, since we have 5 1/1 flyers. Unfortunately, the Crystalline Giant number 2 gets flying as well, so some pretty lucky hits on the random abilities for our opponent. We can Whir of Invention to grab a Forsaken Monument, which will be really good, especially at instant speed, because we'll just like surprise kill one of their things here. Oh wait, I need another blue mana. Why does it say I can cast this? Oh, because Chromatic Sphere. Thank goodness. Okay. Thought I was gonna need another blue mana. I guess it would be blue, blue, sack that for a blue, and then a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'd have to tap multiple flyers, but I think it's still worth it. Blue, blue, blue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I attack with 2 of those 4. We definitely attack because they're going to trade for the Giants here when they go for the blocks, because they're going to get +2/+2. So we can clear their flyers out of the way. Definitely have a ridiculous attack next turn. And because it's instant speed, we can get the heckin' Bamboozle off here. Surprise him with it. 5. Auto pay. And there's the Forsaken Monument. Get out here. Bam! Massive swing. Clear out those Giants. Great stuff there. Ooh, and we have the mana to slap a Bone Splitter onto something. So we might as well. Since we drew the land there off of the Chromatic Sphere, drawing a card when we spent it for blue. And there's the concession from our opponent, so just showing off the power of that Forsaken Monument, especially with a tutor effect to grab out of the deck, and also just showing how the deck operates in general. Just get Sai onto the board and then slam down cheap artifacts, spam those Thopters out as quickly as you can, and just go off. So let's grab another game here. Again, I don't think this is the most powerful Historic Brawl deck ever, because of how susceptible it is to removal. But I'm mainly just in Historic Brawl for a fun time, not a particularly competitive, high-stakes time. I think any moderately controlling deck can just run circles around this. But if you're playing against a bunch of people that are all trying to do their own fun shenanigans, your fun shenanigans are going to be really fast and really efficient. And as you can see, that Nettle Cyst again, see if we can't just get a repeat of the last game, how powerful that is. And I am running some cards that I don't even think are that good in this deck. They're just very, very classic cards to me, and very nostalgic for me, like the Sharding Sphinx, this card from Shards of Alara that was basically the first brand new set that I ever played when I started the game, because I started back in 2009. I just really liked the Esper cards, and I loved the colored artifacts. I think that the cards just look absolutely beautiful, and they had some really cool effects. So Sharding Sphinx is a classic artifact card that I play in pretty much all of my artifact commanders, because it's just so nostalgic for me. It's so fun. When your Thopter tokens are hitting your opponent, you're getting more Thopter tokens, and they just get exponentially more and more and more. Really fun card, but it is very slow for Historic Brawl. It's a lot better in casual commander play groups, which is most of where I've played it. In Historic Brawl, it's a 6-mana artifact creature, so just takes so long to get off the ground running that it's generally not good. As you can see in this matchup here, where we're just against a red deck here, Sharding Sphinx isn't going to do anything for us. We just need to hope our opponent spams out a bunch of creatures rather than killing our Sai, so that we can try to spam out a bunch of Thopters to block them. And this is definitely a game where we're going to be taking a more controlling role. That's why we have cards like Baral's Expertise in here. There are decks that are even faster than ours, because our deck focuses so heavily on Sai, we're not doing anything until turn 4. The vast majority of the time, we don't really want to play many artifacts before we cast Sai, because we want to be able to get all of the value off of them, get those Thopter tokens. So there are just much quicker aggressive decks, as you can see with this red Anax hardened in the Forge deck. Just a bunch of cheap artifacts out here from our opponent. Or a bunch of cheap creatures. We're the one with the cheap artifacts. So we've got some blockers established. We'll see what they do here. 2 mana up at instant speed. They held on to something. Definitely not attacking in. The reason I didn't block with Sai last turn is because if I blocked with Sai and then they had something like a Shock to do 2 damage at instant speed, it would be a massive game over for me, because then I couldn't get these Thopters to help chump block here. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They are down a Lava Coil now, so they spent 1 removal spell. I could go for a double chump here, like so. The Pyreling can get double strike if they shock my face, so it might be important to block there in case they do have a shock. How much am I still playing around shock here? I need 1 more mana to Baral's Expertise. Kind of just need to top deck the Expertise mana here, or I'm very, very dead. Let's just hope they don't have a shock here, because I think if they do have a shock, I'm already pretty SOL. Alright, they're just going to go for the Immolator kill there, which they could have done anyway. It already had the 4 power. We'll throw the Sai into the command zone, kill the Bull Town, take 2. So that actually went pretty well for me, especially because I drew into the Brawl's Expertise mana. But now they just have a 1-2 and a 1-3. Maybe we can just cast Tezzeret and make a 1-1 flyer here for a chump block. Save Brawl's Expertise for when they play another bigger creature like a Nax themselves.
As are you.
Yeah, 1 chump block might be enough here. Just chump block Pireling and take 2 maximum. That would be if they cast another instant or sorcery here. I suppose if it is like a shock or something, they could kill the Thopter token and then hit us for 3. I'm feeling somewhat comfy here. 8 life isn't a ton against a red deck, but their board's pretty small because we did kill off that Bull Town, plus we got them to spend their other attacking creature to kill our Sai, the Heartfire Immolator. And they do cast an axe. They're both going to attack Tezzeret. We'll just take that damage then. Keep this Thopter token to use it as a chump block to preserve our life total. And with Sharding Sphinx, we can go ahead and attack them with this Thopter and get another Thopter, which is very cool. And this, you know, it would be so lovely if I win this game thanks to a Sharding Sphinx. If I actually just go off with a Sharding Sphinx, that would be so cool, because I love that card. As I said before, such a classic nostalgic card for me. So if we just go off with the whole making a million Thopters, that would be a great way to end this game. Our opponent does have the Slaying Fire to get rid of the Sharding Sphinx there, so we just use it for some blocks. Still fine, still did its job there. Plus it kept that Slaying Fire from dealing 4 damage to our face, so that was pretty nice. We're definitely going to Brawl's Expertise here, I think. And then we'll still have 2 mana up to equip a Nettle Cyst. So we return the 3 non-haste creatures. The Get-To Lava Runner will just have haste anyway when they replay it. So let's return those 3, and then we still have the 2 mana to equip the Nettle Cyst. Keep using Tezzeret to establish blockers. And we should have a pretty safe board state after this, plus the ability to start swinging at them. And I think I would rather slap the Nettle Cyst onto a blocker than an attacker here. So that they just don't have active attacks. Because otherwise, I mean, taking 2 when I'm at 4 life is a pretty big amount. We know they don't have removal in hand unless they top deck it, because their hand's just all creatures here. So 5/5 should be a good blocker. Well, now we can't gain life. That is actually a big deal. Plus, those Devil tokens are incredibly threatening when they die, dealing a damage to any target. So if they get enough of those Devil tokens, we'll die no matter what. Ooh, Junk Winder's so good here. This card is really nice in the deck. Affinity for tokens, so it's pretty cheap. Plus, whenever a token enters the battlefield, we tap one of their cards and it doesn't untap in their next step, making it a really good defensive card. So I think I'd rather just cast Junk Winder here and then make a token. Because if I make the token after I cast the Junk Winder, I can use it to tap down that Devil token, so that the Devil token does not get to attack us next turn. Such a good card in this deck. Junk Winder, a really controlling card, but great with any Thopter production, be it from Sai or cards like Tezzeret. It's just a beautiful card there. And now, by leaving double blue up, I can reverse engineer by going blue, blue, tap Bone Splitter, tap Nettle Cyst, tap a Thopter. Is it worth it? I'd still have 3 blockers if I don't attack, so I think it is. We'll reverse engineer here. Pay Bone Splitter, Nettle Cyst, and the 1/1 to draw 3. And we do get another land here. Hold off the attacks. So our plan to get through this Tibalt is just to keep tapping those Devil tokens, because we do not want them to die. If they attack us, no matter what, we're taking a damage, whether we don't block them or if we kill them on a block. Really scared of this Gutter Snipe as well. Gutter Snipe's a pretty big problem. I suppose I could have attacked Tibalt with my 6/6 there, but then I wouldn't have the 6/6 to block with. If I didn't cast Reverse Engineer, then I could have done that. I probably should have done that. Hold off on the Reverse Engineer for a turn so I could just kill Tibalt to keep them off of the next token. And then also, if I top deck any life gain, I could actually use it, which would be very good.
It is the ideal support.
Definitely going to keep making tokens with Tezzeret there. They have no flyers, so attack Tybalt for 1, and their face for 7. And we're going to cast Psy and get another Thopter that way.
I guess I cracked.
Because we can cast Psy and cast actually 2 artifacts here, which is very good. Tap down a Devil token. Crashing Drawbridge, so we can give everything haste. If we survive one more turn, we are at lethal to them. Just in the sky alone. We have exactly 16 damage of flyers. I guess we have a Bone Splitter as well, so a little more than that. Pyroclastic Hellion does 2 damage to us here, putting us to 2 life total. They can shut off 1 blocker here. I think we're still good. They have 1, 2, 3. They have 3 attackers and they can stop 1 blocker. Yeah, we're good. We got plenty of blockers. So we just survived this turn. Crack back for lethal. So Junkwinder can't block. They're going to attack probably all here. Yep. I guess that makes it so we have to chump block with a Thopter, which leaves us 1 damage from lethal. But with the Crashing Drawbridge giving everybody haste, we will still have lethal, so we'll be okay. Just make a Thopter with Tezzeret and then give them all haste. And I guess, yeah, Bone Splitter as well does it. So Bone Splitter, slap that on there. Tezzeret, get a Thopter.
I learned a few
Tap down a Devil, doesn't matter. And then we just attack in. Give everybody haste and attack in. And there's the concession from our opponent. So Junkwinder. Junkwinder really going off there. That card is sick. Sick in any deck with a lot of tokens. A little weird that it is a blue card, but that makes it perfect for Psy Master Thopterist. Really cool to see a token tribal card in blue, and it just functions so well with all these little artifact Thopter tokens. Works really well with treasure tokens and clue tokens as well, if you're building a deck around those kind of cards. As you can see, our opponent is playing a Pirates deck, so they could have a lot of treasure tokens in there. Junkwinder just a very, very strange card that has just impressed me a bunch out of Historic Horizons. It's a really fun card there. I am enjoying it a lot. So opponent is on the play here. This is going to be a quite different game, but still a definite keep. We are not going to be doing the Nettle Cyst for a 12-12 attacker thing again here. We're going to be playing some other cards. Opponent does immediately scoop them up. They are not a fan of their opening hand at all, or maybe they're not a fan of my commander. So we'll just head into another round then. Not really going to count that one. We're against the same player, so hopefully they don't concede this time. If they concede again, then I suppose we are the problem. They do not like Psy Master Thopterist. They're just not a fan of Thopter tokens. So these basic lands I'm using here are illustrated by Chippy, one of my favorite Magic artists. They haven't done a lot of artwork lately, but they were very prominent during the Lorwyn Shadowmoor Shards of Alara era, and they have just some beautiful artwork. I mean, with the whole Esper-themed island, it's just so cool to see. Like, this really embodies the whole Esper idea from Shards of Alara, where it's this very, like, handcrafted, just very artistic, geometric, like, clean and crisp island where even nature itself has been molded to just be, like, very geometric, sharp, clean cut, all of that. It really embodies what the Esper were all about. They were a Shard of Alara that was all about just artificery, and they liked it, or artificery, and they enjoyed it for like the beauty of it, the elegance of it. There's a lot of just really, really elegant artifact creatures and designs on Esper. And this island really embodies what they were going for with that shard. Very cool stuff. I really, really enjoy that artwork. And I like playing flavorful basic lands for whatever draft formats I'm playing or whatever brawl decks I'm playing. I like having the decks flavor match the artwork. So I'm going to play Metallic Mimic here. I don't usually play my artifacts before Sai, but this one is going to make all my Thopters come in with a +1/+1 counter, come in as 2/2 flyers, so I like just getting that thing out as quickly as possible. And there is Captain Lannery Storm from our opponent, creating a treasure token whenever it attacks and getting +1 power every time they sacrifice one. Might be worth it to take the trade there, but these are important cards for both of us. So we would both have a bad time if I traded there. And I'd rather just everybody have a good time here. We're in it for the casual fun. If I was going super competitive here, I might take that trade. But I'd like to see both decks just operating peak efficiency. Well, if they're just going to power kill Word My Sai, we're going no holds barred now. Now I'm angry. If that's how it's going to be. I let you keep your Lannery and you kill my Sai. So rude. Well, we'll play a Vidalcan Archmage next turn, which is pretty much just as good as Sai, drawing a card every time we cast an artifact. And of course we don't have the mana for Sai here, now that Sai costs 5 mana from the commander tax. So we don't really have the choice to try to get Sai out there. Agent of Treachery. I'm surprised Agent of Treachery isn't banned in Historic Brawl. It's one of the historically least fun to play against cards, or least well-liked cards. I take the Vidalcan Archmage permanently. Even if I kill the Agent of Treachery, they keep the Vidalcan Archmage. So we've got the mana to recast Sai now. Let's just go for it here. Admiral Beckett Brass getting cast now, giving their pirates +1/+1. And if they deal damage to us with 3 pirates, they get to steal another one of our permanents. But they only have the 1 pirate out, so we're not worried about getting that pirate damage in for now. So they're just going to hit us with one of them here. They have 3 treasure tokens up, so a little scared of what they could have here. If we go for the block with Sai, they just have Heartless Act. This is the no fun deck for us. Again, decks with a lot of interaction, a lot of removal are just going to do really well against us. So just 2 efficient removal spells, Agent of Treachery here. I mean, I guess they have Beckett Brass and Lannery, but I'm not seeing a ton of pirate stuff. Could just be like Grixis good stuff. There we go, there's Carry Zev as well. Inventor's Fair is the play here. Sai is way too much mana, we're just never going to cast a Sai here. I think that'll basically just close things out for us. Yeah, actually, I legitimately don't know how Agent of Treachery isn't banned in Historic Brawl. I don't think it did anything absurd that game. It just basically removed Archmage. But the really big thing about the Agent of Treachery that is super rough in Historic Brawl is it can just steal your commander. So if somebody steals your commander, like, it doesn't go back to the command zone. So they could just then sit there and use counter spells and hexproof stuff to permanently keep your commander out of the game, essentially. And if they're going to ban cards that have, like, you know, target creature perpetually gets -1/-2 that could lock out a commander, I'm surprised they're going to leave the Agent of Treachery in when it has been banned in competitive formats. Alright, this hand is great here. One thing that I didn't do earlier that I think I should do is just cast our mana rocks before Psy's on the board. Just get that extra mana. That way on turn 3 I get to cast Psy and a 1 mana artifact. It's worth it to dump out your hand as quickly as possible. Unfortunately here we might not hit the third land, so we might even just need the mana rock to cast Psy in the first place. Playing against Aurelia here, probably a really fast Boros aggro deck. Expect some scary stuff from them. Potentially a lot of cheap removal as well. Having access to red and white, they could have Lava Coil, Swords to Plowshares, all kinds of ridiculous stuff. I think Swords to Plowshares is legal in Historic Brawl. I think the ban list of Historic Brawl is really small. Swords to Plowshares, of course, was a really powerful card in the Mystical Archives, just a 1 mana exile a creature. But your opponent does gain life equal to its power, I believe. Well, I am a coward, so I will not block here because they can give +1/+1. And Elite Spellbinder is the play. I don't really mind whatever they target here because I've got so much other castable stuff. So whatever they want to slow down, probably Chief of the Foundry, I would say, because it can give all those Thopters +1/+1. And that's the only card that they can make prohibitively expensive. Make it a 5 mana card here. And that is the choice they go with. I do hit a land, so I get to cast two 2-mana cards here if I want. Kind of like Steel Overseer, Voltaic Servant, because they're just a really good combo together. That way I tap Overseer, then untap it with Servant, then tap it again. I don't get to go off with it immediately because it doesn't have haste, but next turn I get to start going absolutely ham with the Overseer's effect. And for now I get to untap the Cold Steel Heart and pretend I have a 1 mana blue instant here, but this is not that kind of blue deck. This is like the mono red blue deck. This is just dump my hand out and attack in blue. So they will probably kill Steel Overseer. It's very low toughness, so if they have any burn, they can kill it. And when you have Steel Overseer and Voltaic Servant facing you down, seems like a pretty big threat. Although this is turn 4, which is the time that they have the mana to cast their commander here, so looks like they will go for that. I'll take a trade with Elite Spellbinder here. Will I take a trade with the Intimidator? Yeah, you know, I mean, being able to get multiple counters on these Thopters is nice, but so is just clearing their board for now. And we can rebuild here really quickly with this deck, especially with Corridor Monitor in hand. What, Manifold Key is the draw? Really fun card, especially with Steel Overseer. So I'm just going to cast that there rather than using Corridor Monitor to untap the Overseer. But yeah, now we just start going off with Steel Overseer. This is just such a fun combo. Steel Overseer with Voltaic Servant and with Manifold Key. So we get to get 3 activations of Steel Overseer a turn. Make our artifact creatures absolutely monstrous just really quickly. The synergies abound this game. And there's an Adult Gold Dragon from our opponent, but they can't attack well with their flyers. Because ours are all going to be 3/3s. We can kill both of those off. And we can trade for that Gold Dragon with a single Thopter. Oh yeah, they're just going to scoop them up there. Like, we take that trade there, and then it goes to our turn. We're going to cast more Thopters with Universal Automaton, or if we hit a land with Chief of the Foundry, which would be even better. And then after that, we get a counter on them, untap a counter on them, attack in with Servant and Monitor, and then end step, untap Overseer, and get another counter on them. So we just have massive, I mean, they'd be 6/6 flyers. So we'd only have to hold 1 back to block with. And I suppose because we get a brand new fresh flyer from the Universal Automaton, we could even just attack with both of these as 5/5 flyers. Then the new one would be a 4/4 to block with. Yeah, some ridiculous stuff, some super good synergies there. But I believe that will end today's Historic Brawl video. I hope you enjoyed this side deck. I have been enjoying it a ton. Really fun to just get aggressive with the artifact combos and synergies. I really like aggressive decks and I really like artifact decks, and this is just putting your peanut butter with your jelly here and doing some ridiculous things. Again, against more competitive decks, more decks with just a lot of removal, it's not good. So like that Beckett Brass deck, that definitely seemed like a not great matchup for us because they did have cheap removal to keep killing Sai. That's where the deck really falters. If Sai gets killed, you're pretty doomed. But if Sai doesn't get killed, this deck just consistently goes off. Every game where Sai wasn't constantly getting harassed ended at a point where our synergies just went abound, and we had one massively large, ridiculous creature with Nettle Cyst, or a whole board of massively ridiculous stuff with either Forsaken Monument buffing the board, or that Steel Overseer that game consistently buffing all of those Thopters. So really, really powerful, fun deck in any matchup where both players are just trying to do their own combos and stuff. So yeah, again, that is going to end the Brawl video. I hope you all enjoyed it, as I have, and I will see you all again very soon for some more Magic Arena.